showing top of descent in about half an hour. That's good. So I'm not really paying attention too much to the flag now because we're in the cruise and stuff, but I believe we are already in Japanese airspace there. If we look around, it looks like a Japanese name. I'll just try to unzoom this. And this looks like Japan to me, north of Japan. Yeah, we've been a long way already. So as I said earlier on, the route is not exactly straight, but there must be like restrictions with the airspace, maybe military areas or whatever, so the route kind of, there's a bit of a dog leg there, but yeah. Yeah, I think it's the right way to do it, you know. Try to save a little bit of money to pay for your flying lessons, and then when you've got the opportunity, do the training, build some hours, and then start applying to different airlines and try to get. I'm not sure if the likes of Virgin or Jetstar take on guys as well, who would pay for their training, and then, or I don't know really too much about the recruitment situation in Australia, but yeah, I'm sure there must be like ways obviously to get. And from what I understand, there's a lot of general aviation jobs as well in Australia, more so than in Europe, for example. So a lot of guys flying into the, you know, the remote areas of Australia to bring in goods, and you know, so yeah, for the moment at least in the cruise. Anyway, in the cruise, the fuel checks, if we can talk about it like quickly, is no big deal actually, because for example, let me bring up the flight plan again. So here's the flight plan. That's not really the section I'm interested in. Right. So we're going to Salmon. Let me find Salmon there on the navigation log. Oh yeah, here it is. So for the fuel checks, yeah, basically we look at Salmon. We're supposed to have 14.7 tons of fuel at Salmon here, and that's the next waypoints actually. We passed that one. So at Dish there, we're supposed to have 15.1 tons of fuel, and we have 15.8 at the moment. So we are above the minimum flight plan fuel. So we are good. We are not leaking or anything. So that's good. And we passed Dish at 10:43. I'm not really sure what the takeoff time was. I didn't take a note of it. But we're passing Salmon now, and the time, the elapsed time is 52 minutes. And if we look at the next point there, Salmon, 53 minutes there on the takeoff time. So with 14.7 and 15.3, so we are 600 kilos above the flight plan fuel there, and it looks like about 1 minute early. So doing well, doing very well. And that's all it would be really when we check the time and the fuel. The fuel is the main thing. The time is just like an indication, really, of how well maybe the wind is forecast and things like that. But the main thing to check is the fuel, just to make sure we're not leaking. But yeah, obviously here today there's no funny business in the simulator, so not gonna leak or anything. So that's good. Narita's got like a bit of an interesting procedure on the approaches into runway 34 left or 34 right, which is mostly the one in use. you need to drop the gear before you cross the coastline. There must have been an incident before where maybe, from what I heard, there was an incident once where like a chunk of ice dropped from like the landing gear of an aircraft and either damaged property on the ground or maybe even killed someone or whatever. So from that time, then they decided that landing gear had to be extended when still over the sea, still over the water, but not to drop the landing gear when above the land. So that's interesting. Yeah, Haneda is quite nice. Yeah. There's in the airport notes that I have here on the charts. I can't put it on the screen because it's on my personal device, so to speak. But it says like gear down ops during approach to runway 34 left or right, and in order to prevent ice blocks falling from aircraft onto the ground, all flights from the seashore making an approach to runway 34 left or right are required to complete gear down and locked before reaching 11.8 DME on runway 34 left and 13.6 on runway 34 right, as far as the safety of the flight is not compromised. So the airport notes do mention ice blocks falling from the aircraft, so I think something must have happened. Yeah, 13.6 is a long way. Yeah. But you have to comply, otherwise they'll probably fine you or something. As far as I'm aware, it's the only place in the world where that restriction is in place. But if something happened and maybe somebody was killed or something, then they've got to be seen as doing something about it. So just about to coast in actually. Looking outside the simulation is not gonna help too much because, oh yeah, you can see the coastline here. Must be in various like cities and stuff. So you can see the coastline. Actually, here it is, because you can see some of the flight deck there. So just about to coast in. That's the coastline there. There's a bit of cloud as well. So yeah, getting there. Right, so since it wants to start the descent soon, we'll look at the recon. There's nothing there. A checklist, there are no notes. Set the arrival. So we go to departure arrival, go for runway 34 right, and set ILS. So ILS Zulu 34 right. When there's a choice between like ILS Yankee, for example, and ILS Zulu, I tend to go primarily for the Zulu, so kind of go in the reverse alphabetical order. Unless this specified, of course, that's the other one, but otherwise the Zulu normally is the one used. So go for Zulu. And then I think from the swamp arrival, it's the Sierra Bravo, I think. And we transition, and we put the EFB. So arrivals, select the star, 34 right, via the swamp, Sierra Bravo. Let's see how that looks. No, this one is the long, no, that's the short one. That's the short one. You just go over that little peninsula there and then come back in. Okay, good. So yeah, Themis, but there's no Themis waypoint, so let's see on the approach itself. RJAA approach, select approach, 3-4 right, ILS Zulu, yeah, via Themis, yeah. And then is it Tyler or Elgar? See with Elgar what it does. But there's no need for the transition actually, because it's a different. We go directly to Themis. Okay, so let me change that again. So 3-4 right, runway 3-4, LS 3-4 right via Zulu, and yeah, no transition. And activate. So yeah, we've got the Swam Sierra Bravo, the arrival that takes us to Themis. Good, excellent day. So yeah, the Swam Sierra Bravo, and then no transition, and we can execute here. Let's look again at the plan mode, see how it works out there. So we'll just the legs page, cycle through the points on the arrival. Go back to the arrival section. So this is pretty much the way we would look at the arrival and set it up, you know. So looking at the chart. From Swamp we go to Dante, and it's 11,000 feet or above, as you can see here. And then we go to the AF 013, 014, 015, Webs is 9,000 or above, that's set. Then the 007, the 008, 009 is correct. The NR21 Alpha, it's set. And then Themis, so that's good. And then on the ILS, we've got Themis, and then the 14.7 points, which is Lapis at 5,000 feet, and then 15 miles to the runway. So that's correct. So that's pretty much where I'm gonna try to drop the gear. Yeah, good. And then for the missed approach, where is it? Let's see where the missed approach. Yeah, the missed approach is a right turn to Abbott, 6,000 feet. And if we look at the display, we've got the right turn here to 6,000 feet. And it's set as well. We can actually set 6,000 as a hard altitude. Maybe it's gonna work, take it. Yeah, perfect. And that's pretty much it. So the FMC checks, it's all programmed to follow the arrival there, so that's good. Then if we look at the EFB again, the ILS frequency we don't really set because it's set automatically there, so don't need to bother. The approach course we don't need to bother as well. The FAF altitude is just like some information. There's nothing there really to set. The decision altitude is 335. I'm not sure actually if it's the correct one on the EFB. I'm gonna quickly check on the actual chart. Now on the actual chart it's 400, so I'll set 400 here, which is already almost there. Yeah. So yeah, the EFB only gives you basically 200 feet above the threshold, but they can be like increments to the decision altitude. So today it's the case on the real chart. Right. That's pretty much it. Then we'll check our VRF. So we predict it's gonna be landing with 10.5 tons of fuel. Zero fuel weight is 228.1, so plus 10.5 is gonna be 238.6. So with a bit of configuration, we'll call it 238, let's say. 145 for flap 13. And we'll go auto brakes 3. That's that. So let me bring FS to crew again. Do the briefing there. It's vectors or arrival actually. Let's cut one. The minima is 400. We're gonna be landing flap 30. The runway, can call it wet. But, we're not really sure what's gonna be like. Level 3 is what we've selected for the auto brake. Yeah, we'll start the APU, the transponder on the ground. We're gonna go to a gate and concerns weather and terrain again. So I'll spare you the torture of the brief there, but at least FS to crew knows what to expect, so that's good.
Descent checklist, recall, checked, notes.
Checked.
Auto brake level 3, landing data.
VRF is 145, minimums 400 feet.
VREF 145, minimums 400 feet. Approach briefing.
Completed.
Descent checklist complete.
Seatbelt sign on.
Seatbelt signs coming on.
Yeah, around passing 20, between 25 and 20,000 feet, you know, with the seatbelt sign on as a clue for the crew in particular to start preparing the cabin. I mean, they would know that they would have a timeline of the flight, so they would know even before starting the descent that they need to start preparing. But when the seatbelt sign comes on, then it's definitely a clue that they need to start accelerating the preparation, so to speak. So actually, looking at the display here, those waypoints are totally bypassed. So to avoid any difficulties, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go from Dante to the AF015, so the automation doesn't try to catch up and do funny things. Just gonna make it smoother, I guess, in the tracking. Remind you, this is real time, so obviously evening time in Japan now, so. So please remind me to drop the gear at 14 miles, otherwise we'll get a fine. Right, so now all of a sudden we're finding ourselves high on the profile for some reason. So we'll just help it a little bit. Good question about the anti-ice. The anti-ice indeed is in the auto position pretty much while airborne. You would only put the engine anti-ice on, in particular on the ground when you have icing conditions. But in flight, the anti-ice switches, they remain on the auto position. Wing anti-ice definitely stays on auto position, even like if it's icing conditions and you're taking off, for example. You will never really put that on, but for the engine, yeah, it will come to on for takeoff, for example, in icing conditions. And then once you taxi in, then you will put them back on, but in flight they stay on the auto position. Right, so we pass the transition, the altimeters to 1017. The VNAV is playing up again. So that's also a simulator thing. I've got a shortcut on the joystick, but I pressed the button but it didn't register, so there you go.
$1,000 feet to level off.
We'll continue the descent to 5 now, which is some sort of platform altitude. And we'll actually take it on 5, we'll change now, reduce the speed to 50. Yeah, the VNAV there is totally messed up. It's not worked very well in that descent for some reason, so just disregard it. But yeah, for the anti-ice Eurowings pilot, go and have a look on the channel and do a little search. I've got a video on the use of engine anti-ice on the 777. Approach checklist.
Approach checklist. Altimeters.
1017 set.
1017. Approach checklist complete.
So you can see on the navigation display there's a bit of rain around. I wouldn't say any major storm cells or anything, but there's a little bit of green there. I think there's supposed to be a few showers around. There's maybe a little bit more of a bigger cloud simulated here, since you've got a little bit of red, but otherwise just a few patches of green. It's quite nicely done.
10,000 feet.
So 10,000 feet, the lights come on, and the logo light as well, which is good. And yeah.
Cabin crew, prepare for landing.
10 minutes, prepare for landing, yeah. So far so good. And getting into the soup now, as I call it, into cloud. If we look around, yeah. So at night it's quite cool because the strobes are flashing into the cloud, and you know, as soon as you enter the cloud you can see you've got the reflection of the light in the cloud. It's quite funky. So far so good. We've got the addons now for the LS India Tango Juliet, which is what we're looking for. It's good the scenery as an ILS, which is always a good thing, because sometimes you install a scenery and there's no ILS, or the ILS frequency is different. Good, we are in business so far. Right, so 5,000 feet will be the platform altitude. We won't descend any lower until established the localizer. So far so good. So So now we are about 7 miles to kind of intercept, so I'll start coming back on the speed. Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
And still matching the track bug with the arrival track there, so that if the track, so that the bug stays in line with the track of the aircraft. Flaps 5.
Speed checked. Flaps 5.
So obviously through the deceleration, the descent rate decreases quite a bit. And we need to remember to drop the gear as well before the 14 miles.
Let's out of feet to level off.
No problemo, we'll go vertical speed. It's not following the LNAV properly there. Anyway, we'll go localizer then. Localizer is captured. Yeah, it didn't follow the LNAV properly there for some reason, and now we've got glide slope indication. This is good. Cabin is ready, that's good news. So it's kind of overshooting ever so slightly the localizer, that's my bad. Clemenza, that's usually quite a good speed because you don't want to get too fast, but it depends also on what ATC wants you to do really. But I will be quite reluctant to hit the glide slope, for example, with less than at least flaps 5. Yeah, it's because it didn't overshot because I didn't follow the if I didn't follow the LNAV, I thought I would follow the LNAV and establish on the localizer, but I didn't, so I had to kind of override that. Gear down.
Gear down.
Flaps 20.
Speed checked. Flaps 20.
Glide slope capture.
Check.
Missed approach altitude set.
Check.
That's that. So we dropped the gear. We're all good now. Eurowings pilot, you will start the flare around 30 feet, between 30 and 20, maybe 25, 30 feet. You start the flare. The flare is just a gentle check on the attitude, and yeah, and then when the thrust comes back to idle, it just like sits down nicely. It's not too much of an effort, to be honest. Tailwind limitations, 50 knots on the tail we can take. Which is quite significant actually, but yeah, 15 is the limit. So because we are so far, if we are talking about being efficient on the fuel, I could now configure to flaps 30, but we're still at 10 miles away. So the more flaps you use, and the more fuel you use as well. So I'll just wait a little bit. See with the EFB, it's nicely depicted. It's quite nice. Oh, and there's like TCAS targets there. What is this? Interesting. There must be traffic on the ground. Flaps 30.
Speed checked. Flaps 30.
2500.
Cabin crew, take our seats.
Landing checklist.
Landing checklist. Landing checklist complete.
Right, so we'll try to maintain 160 to 4 and then reduce the speed to the final approach speed. Right, that's approaching 4 miles, so we can come back on the speed. We've got land 3 roll-out flare armed, but we won't do an auto land, just disconnect and fly manually. See how it goes. The only thing is that it doesn't really want to decelerate too much. Hopefully he's not going to call me approach unstable, because otherwise that's no good.
Approach stable.
That's alright, it's only a few knots above the VRF +5, so it's not bad. Right, here we go. Here comes the motion. Flight director.
Approaching 3-4 right.
Hopefully the frame is not gonna be too bad. Feels like there's a few kind of bumps or something in the sim. I try not to make a bad one, but
Approaching minimums.
Approaching minimums. Minimums.
Minimums.
landing.
Checked.
$100. 50. 30. 20. 10.
Speed break up. Reverse is normal.
meters
16 knots.
remaining.
Manual braking.
Check.
No, it's true. The approach speed on the 777, the highest VRF is 149, so that's the highest before you get into an overweight situation. So 149 plus 5 is 154, but that's at max landing weight.
Approaching 16 left.
But yeah, otherwise most of the time 142, 143, so now we'll be quite close to what the 737 is. Right, so let's see where we are going first. Follow the greens. Here we are. Alright, so let me see with the EFB. So we'll stay on Bravo. I'll zoom in a little bit. Take my time to taxi back in. Yeah, the wind additive on this is the same. It's +5 in most cases, and then because well, it depends on the airline, but we do land with the auto throttle engaged.
I have Kanto.
So the maximum additive is +10 on the VRF. Your wings, pilot. I'll give you the standard reply. I don't mean to be difficult, but it's just, you know, for my own sake as well. According to FlightAware, Korean Air goes to gate 27 in Narita, so but gate 27 is totally to the other side of the airport, so it's gonna be a long taxi in. So the green lights are supposed to be the taxiway center line, and the blue light is supposed to be the how do you call that? The taxiway edges. Alright, so there's a lot of green lights here actually, and the scenery there is a little bit confusing, and at night it's all black. Fortunately, the taxi light is not helping too much, to be honest. And I should have switched off the storm light, but I guess it makes the stream a little bit easier to watch, otherwise it's gonna be all dark.